Over the last 2 seasons of Decoding Impact, we engaged in discussions with over 22 experts representing various sectors. Throughout the past year and a half, our conversations delved into the intricacies and trade-offs inherent in tackling societal issues across education, health, agriculture, and livelihoods. From these dialogues, 3 consistent themes surfaced as cross-cutting issues across all of our conversations. These have been identified as key focus areas for India to achieve its developmental goals. These are climate action, gender equity, and the digital public goods and the digital public infrastructure. Our panel of experts share their insights on pressing questions across these 3 themes. The importance of climate change adaptation and mitigation strategies is undisputed. But our guests also emphasize the need for climate justice, circularity, and inclusive models. Our speakers also highlighted the need for systemic level changes for us to be able to truly address the needs and the urgency of climate action.
Rising CO2 levels will decrease iron, zinc, and protein content of edible portions of the plants, which will roughly mean that 3 to 17% the drop in nutritive value for some of the common staples that we are consuming. We need to do a little bit of introspection here and see if there is a time to change the goalpost from chasing food security to look at sustainable nutrition security, where we are looking at solutions which help in marrying agriculture with nutrition and climate.
Adoption of circular economic models will also be central to a green economies of the future. We must move from take, make, and dispose to reduce, reuse, and recycle. The nations most vulnerable to climate change are not the cause of it. Mobilizing finance, technology transfer, and capacity building support are crucial for developing countries to enhance their mitigation and adaptation efforts. There is a need to reform multilateral development banks to enable flow of private and blended finance in developing countries.
The term climate justice is often used. I would say it's a legitimate demand of developing countries. This is a problem of the stock of emissions which have happened roughly since when Industrial Revolution began in 1850, right? So to say, oh, India is today the third or fourth largest emitter means nothing. You have to see what has been the cumulative emissions done by countries since Industrial Revolution. 80% of climate capital today is going to just 2 sectors, electricity and mobility. And these contribute about 42 to 45% of the emissions. So you could argue 80% of money is going to solve 45% of the problem.
Where I would like to focus a little more is the inclusiveness of sustainability, right? I don't think we're doing enough on that. So certification, sustainability at times is still being used by businesses as a marketing tool, a competitive tool versus one another. And that's where I think I would actually put out call for action with big companies saying that they really do need to get onto one table, do pre-competitive work on sustainability, right? It's about making the ecosystem sustainable. And that's the only way that the value will go down to the bottom of the pyramid. If we don't do that, and if we just focus on our supply chains, that sharing of value is not going to happen.
If one were to replace, let's say, rice with millets, it would actually mean reduction in irrigation water demand by as much as 33%. And millets are also environment friendly because they are what are called the C4 plants. That means they avoid photorespiration and therefore absorbs higher carbon dioxide. I think all of these are a host of reasons why millets came into attention after the Indian government had brought it as the year of millets and now the international year of millets at the instance of government.
If we were to truly achieve inclusive impact, it is important to ensure that we address the issue of gender divide across health, education, and participation in the workforce. Our speakers highlighted the critical and almost invisible challenges that hold women back today in the system and emphasized that if we have to solve for equity, it is not only important to design for women, but designed with women to ensure that these solutions are relevant and actionable.
The digital divide is one of the most understudied issues in this century, and it's going to be, over the next 10 to 20 years, the main deterrent for female labor force participation, because the new jobs are going to go to digital natives. And if more and more women are excluded from digital devices ownership as well as use and optimal use, that too, then they would not be able to deploy it for their work.
We take great pride in microfinance that 99% of our customers are women. But a lot of, in that sense, the women are the front, but the money is going to the household. But again, research tells us that even if the woman is just a front, it influences the nature of deployment.
Yeah.
It goes into, at the margin, stuff that's better for the family, education, etc. So I think that's a really important channel of impact. I'm a little bit more torn when it comes to thinking about businesses and entrepreneurs, because in some sense there women face multiple hurdles and are likely to disproportionately feature in our reluctant entrepreneur category.
Issues related to gender inequality, financial difficulties, domestic violence, roles that women have to take up. Many of these are important gender-based issues that might be responsible for different kinds of psychological distress among women. Postpartum depression, postpartum psychotic disorders are also well-recognized conditions. So we need to make sure that families don't dismiss them as some kind of a black magic or something like that occurs, but these are actually clinical conditions that need treatment as well as further management.
Wherever we can operate, bringing mothers on board in a big way to engage directly with children's learning is something that we are doing. India has been very successful in structuring women's groups, microfinance, self-help groups. So that is also not a foreign formulation, that women come together in their hamlet to do certain things.
India has introduced a new paradigm to solve for population scale problems by bringing in the right balance between the role of the state and the role of the market. Digital public goods and digital public infrastructure can enhance access and affordability and help scale impact. However, issues of infrastructural access, sustainability, and stakeholder buy-in need serious thought. More importantly, the population that today understands how to imagine digital public goods and digital public infrastructure needs to scale for us to be able to understand and imagine these solutions for the future.
When you create digital public infrastructure, you have to think about two things. One, creation of that digital infrastructure that sort of levels out the access and equity angle to it. But also you have to consider that is it amenable to innovation further? Because that triggers exponential change later.
Need to invest in a platform which allows edtechs to access some amount of public data so that they spend more time on developing products and services and go to scale. It needs facilitation to enable the edtechs to access the platform and then allows them, incubates and accelerates them to create better products and more products and so on. So I think it needs this initial investment in digital public infrastructure, which our country has already done. So what does the platform do? It makes them access data, which is the digital registry of farmers, geotagged plots of the farmers. It also has weather data and satellite data being collected systematically. So you get micro weather advisory also available through that. So there are 3, 4, 5 services which are available to anyone who wants to join the platform. And the guys are then told, go and develop products and services. And they're also told that we will also facilitate the mobilization of the farmers in that area through FPOs and all that.
Telehealth solutions in general have very high adoption. But the challenge in those tend to be, and access and quality, I would say, is decent. I don't think we need to improve the quality of primary care in this country. I think it's really awareness of what the problem is. Screening, I think maternal and childcare. We've seen that in pregnancy, different kinds of solutions that have reached the base of pyramid population. But ideally, state-sponsored will be the way to scale those.
India is still in the solutioning mindset. If you sit with electricity boards, if you sit with our transport companies, government, they still talk in terms of solution. I want a treasury solution. I want a KSRTC solution or BMTC solution. But over a period of time, this thought has come saying that yes, we could break down into blocks and reuse the blocks, share the blocks. So it is not necessary that everybody has to build the same block. No private industry will take a risk to develop it in the open source. They will say, what is it there for me? But philanthropy can take that risk. So that's what I would want the philanthropy to do, not actually go and disseminate, innovate, implement, scale up, and that's not the role of the philanthropy. Philanthropy is to take the risk of the pre-innovation.